Good afternoon. How are you? Greetings to the Dirt Road Gang. Well, we're some gang, you know. At Columbia, what did they have? We had the jocks and the what were the other ones? Pukes. The jocks and the pukes. So, if you were now, the truth is, the kind of student that we had at Columbia, they were both jocks and pukes, but they tried to carve themselves up that way. So today, I think we have to take a look at what's going on that shows the desperation of the Trump campaign. Now, the Jefferson report says that we have 80 degrees, give or take, right now, and that there's 45% of humidity, and the wind is at 9 miles an hour, and I have felt breezes, so I guess it is probably true. Holly and I did some door knocking today, canvassing it's formally called. And for those of you who are familiar with it, bear with me a second to explain it to those who are maybe curious about what it is. And it used to be you'd have information, you have lots of pieces of paper, and it would tell you from last elections who voted for what and when and stuff like that. A lot of information. And now we have mobile apps that allow us to identify people that we want to talk to, and usually they're somewhat targeted because they either we know of them because they did vote, so that means you don't go to all households because some have not. If you're going to grow the vote, you might do that. Right now, I think our primary mission, and the Loudoun County Democratic Committee might contradict me, but I believe the current effort is to identify those who will support the ticket and are going to go vote on November the 5th, and whether they'll vote up and down the ticket. And these mobile apps, minivan they're called, allow you to both identify where someone is, to get information how to walk or drive there, and to record the short interview with those people that you get at home. So Holly and I went to 32 households. We did speak to a lot of people over 4 hours, and that can be more or less depending on what's going on. And it was encouraging, but I'll tell you this about the Republican voters. None were disrespectful, but a couple were a little abrupt, but again, not disrespectful. And one fella who was in his 70s, who told me at the outset he was Republican. He was very friendly, and he wanted to know if I wanted to discuss with him why I should support Trump. And I said, I don't think that's necessary. I said, we're having a good relationship. I think we should keep it that way. And he was okay with that. My first neighborhood as a kid, for those of you out there who are familiar with the Bronx, was 143rd and Willis Avenue, and his dad lived near 161st, which is where Yankee Stadium was. So that was interesting. And I enjoy it because you get a feel for what people are thinking about. So having found nothing that would make you angry or upset on the hustings, if you will, doing the work, the real, the walking and talking work of what politics is all about, I listened to JD Vance. And those of you who want to hear all the network shows, what you can do is, and you probably know this, is turn on C-SPAN on Sunday, and from noon on they replay the shows. And so that's usually how I find out who's saying what. And I was really pissed off at JD Vance today. Not that I've ever felt friendly toward him. I don't know how you compare him to Trump in terms of danger, but he's as dangerous, at least as dangerous as Trump, because he's passing on a lie about pet-eating migrants, and he thinks we should discuss it, taken as a given, that is as true, what he says people are saying about Haitian migrants. I'm not going to repeat what I said yesterday, but he thinks we should discuss it even though it's untrue, and the fact that some constituent of his said it was true, assuming that that's true, he thinks we should discuss it because it creates, and he doesn't say this part, it creates discrimination against migrants generally and specifically, and talks about something that we find heinous, that they would kill a loving pet for food. Now, the governor of the state, DeWine, and I'm pretty sure he's Republican, he said there's garbage out there. That's what he called this. And the local elected officials say there's no such practice. There's no evidence of it. But Vance wants to talk about what's untrue, like this mental exercise, which is like sipping ever so gently an orange Kool-Aid, leads us to what? Start treating it as if it's a norm and true, and therefore makes us angry with and antagonistic to the Haitians, when the local officials are saying that though they have a larger population than anticipated, they're working together as a community. So here's a guy who represents the state, and he is undermining the other officials in the state that are working with these migrants or former migrants. Now, in one of his discussions, and I think it was CNN, Dana Bash, I'm pretty sure, was the one who did it, so apologies, and you can fact check me and correct me. But the part that I know is true, because I looked it up, is he said in response to one question, if I have to create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, that's what I'm going to do. Whoa. So he's admitting he may be lying about this, because the only reason he is doing it is not because it's true, but to get attention to a problem. And it's not even that problem, because the problem is not anybody eating those things. And what is he saying? He's saying we should just kick those people who are here on a temporary basis, some of them, or legally, and without any demonstration it's true or untrue. Now, I've said before, I've known people from Haiti, and well, in New York there was a large contingent, and my friend and I, my friend who was from Haiti, we would go to some of these. They weren't dances, and they weren't really parties. There were sessions, people would get together, and it was more sort of like Manhattan chic, if you will, for us guys who, my dad might have said, didn't have a pot to piss in. We were students, and we were getting together and getting to know each other. And this guy would turn them into devils. He's the trash master, just like Trump is. People like this should be driven right out of the whole community, and that's what this election should be about. Now, we've had a bomb threat there because of this. We had the local officials warning federal officials from speaking so irresponsibly as they are, directed right at Vance, JD. And what we have to underscore is this is a species, that is an example of a general political approach that is done by radicals and revolutionaries, terrorists, and it is to create fear and hate and prompt action. And when does that work the best? It works the best when law falls down, when law doesn't exist, when the Constitution is ignored, when deportment is ignored, when how you deal one with the other goes that way. And so what happens is you create a chaos. And the question, to paraphrase Sir Thomas More, is who can stand in the wind that will blow when there is no law? Who can do that? And we're seeing it. That's what the bomb threat is, true or false. Now, and we'll talk about something else later, but okay, now let's go to the highest law in America, supposedly the Supreme Court. There's a New York Times story today, and on one hand it's not surprising, on the other hand it's devastating, because it makes true. It's not a rumor, it's not an imagination, it's true that Roberts came to Trump's assistance as soon as he could. As soon as the Court of Appeals had rejected the notion that a president could be immune, Roberts got on his bicycle and started convincing or telling the other justices where he stood. He thought the lower court opinion was poorly reasoned. He thought it failed to grapple with the most difficult question altogether. And he said how he would decide it. Roberts played a hand in protecting Trump by the decision, and he let everybody know early on. And Roberts was involved in 3 critical decisions, and I'm not going to go through those, because the bottom line is their paths to set up the determination that Roberts wanted, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, to save Trump. Whoa. And then here's another irony, I think. Roberts talks a lot about separation of powers. We have 3 departments, right? Executive, judicial, legislative. And so you have the judicial branch. Now here's the separation. Taking direction from the president. What dictatorship does that sound like? Are we going to wait to day one for Trump to have his dictatorial powers? No. He already has it in certain branches. And if he wins this election, he will sweep wide his hand of sufferance on those who believe in freedom. No question about it. So, separation of powers does not mean that you take money from your friends for the outcome of decisions. See Alito, see Thomas, see others. What is wrong with a court that makes its decision based on politics? Well, if the court is supposed to be an independent department of the executive, which is the chief executive, which is the president, and the president tells us he's only going to appoint justices who will do his bidding, even as they lie to Congress that they will not. So, here we have a couple of illustrations of the difficulty in America. First, we have the lies. The presidential candidate on the Republican side and the vice president on the Republican side are prepared to tell in volumes, day by day by day, because there's no effing way they could win otherwise. And from my short walk today with voters, knocking on the door, and you always learn something, they're repeating back to me what Trump and JD Vance are saying. That's the danger. How you get your information. There was one Democrat I talked to long enough with, Holly, and he was telling me how he listens to all of them, including Fox, because he wants to see what they're saying, which is the reason that I, visit in a shallow fashion, because it just gets me furious, perhaps you too. So, what do we have to show that their model is wrong and that it is what I say? There's a reported incident in Florida today. Some said gunshots. I don't know if it was gunshots or that they saw the rifle from a bush protruding in a position that had a line on the golf course where Trump was probably cheating on mulligans all day. Hell of a hard worker, don't you think? So, what did they find? They found a rifle, and somebody saw the license plate, and they followed it. And the suspect is in custody. Law, the Constitution, the rules have been ignored. This violation, if true, fills the vacuum. Trump is dangerous dangerous almost as a devil might be. Now, when these things happen, those of you who remember Z and V and some of these fictional movies, well, we know that they correspond to the truth in certain ways. That is, never underestimate a scheme that is made to fool us. Can we trust Trump? No. Could he have made this up? I don't know. Will we have a thorough investigation? I don't know. I really don't know. I know how I'd do it. I'd sure like to ask that guy who got this fella's license plate how that happened. I mean, why would you take the license plate of somebody who was leaving? And there are lots of other questions, and maybe there are good answers for all of them. Let's take as given that there really was an attempt on Trump. What has Trump been doing? Trump has been creating fear and chaos, distrust, and he's a wannabe martyr, but without a wound. The only wound he wants is the public's imagination of what happened to him. Now, most people would be grateful for having been saved from a shot, if real. And today's event, I'd like to say I can trust and believe what I'm being told. But those of us who lived through the assassinations of King and Kennedy, both of them, the brothers, we're a suspicious lot. And when you consider that we have somebody lying to us about Haitians eating pets in order to win an election, at a time when the separation between the candidates is growing and the time to correct that is diminishing, we just got to watch and look at these things carefully. So, my thinking for the day is to do, if you can, what Holly and I did today. Knock on a few doors, make a few phone calls, send out postal letters, and talk to a neighbor. And of course, if you can't get $5 or $10, just show up and vote. See if you can encourage a person to do it. It'll make a difference. It really will. Because even in those places where, those states where we expect to win, we should keep in mind that it sends a message nationally of what the country thinks. And implicitly what they think is wrong with the Electoral College. So I say good evening to you from my cathedral of trees. And I look forward to talking to you tomorrow. Although I'm in court in the morning, I should be free by the afternoon. Bye-bye.